Okay, people, the Mr. Olympia competition is over, but this doesn't mean that there are no room for additional content related to it. Today, we are gonna look into what was likely to be one of the most competitive second callouts in history, or at least in recent memory. Yes, this year's first callout had only 4 men instead of the usual 5 or 6, but the second callout had so many big names, it was a lineup of pure talent, and it showed how deep this year's Olympia lineup really was. Let's see who do we have here. Former Mr. Olympia, 5 times Arnold Classic champion Dexter Jackson, last year's runner-up Big Ramy, last year's 8th place finisher Brandon Curry, who is arguably one of the most improved athlete of recent years. Joining them is English bodybuilding prodigy Nathan Diasha, Arnold Classic champion Cedric McMillan, and Steve Kuclo, who, although not as successful or decorated as many of the previously mentioned gentlemen, but he has one of the best on-stage presence, he is pure energy, and with 270 plus pounds, he is also one of the biggest guys on stage. So just a quick reminder, guys, Brandon finished 5th, Ramy 6th, Dexter ended up being 7th, Nathan finished 8th, Cedric 9th, and Steve Kuclo was 10th. This comparison is from the finals, and we can immediately notice how big Ramy is. I mean, there are guys around 280 pounds on both ends of the line, but Ramy is just massive. He looks like an aircraft carrier next to corvettes and battleships. On Saturday, he managed to bring a much better package. Something obviously went off horribly the other day, and thus Ramy basically lost the 5th, or dare I say, even the 4th placing. Standing next to Ramy is the Blade, Dexter Jackson. And let me stop here for a moment, as Dexter is nothing short of amazing. Even if he slipped in placings, his package is still more or less the same as it used to be. He brought the conditioning, the detail, even the size, at least for his own standards. Although comparing this physique to the Mr. Olympia physique of 10 years ago, it is obvious that his midsection became larger and his muscle bellies and general flow of his physique are worse now. Still, turning around, he was one of the few who had the same amount of detail feel-packed. He is still good, but unlucky for him, the new era of bodybuilders is very strong and deep. They are hungry, young, and they didn't miss the mark. Dexter cannot withstand their attacks for long, and he has stated on Instagram that if he places out of the top 6 at the 2019 Olympia, then that will be his last. Cedric McMillan on the right once again showed why he is a strong contender for the People's Champion Award in the future. His individual routine was something for the ages, as he rocked the audience like none other. I highly recommend to look it up and watch it yourself if you haven't seen it yet. His conditioning was much better than what he brought last year, however, his placing was not. But this Cedric was close to where he needs to be. It's just like, unlike last year, when he was the reigning Arnold Classic champion, this year he had basically zero momentum behind him coming to this show. And you know the deal, in bodybuilding you are as good as your last show was. Nevertheless, I think he has a top 6 physique. His back was full and detailed, he is huge, and he is a born entertainer, a crowd favorite. Half of the bodybuilding community cannot wait for Cedric to really nail it. In similar fashion, Sean has done it this year, so he can finally be crowned as Mr. Olympia. Brandon Curry has improved like no other competitor in the last 2 years. He is a nice mix of size, conditioning, and full round muscle bellies. A dangerous guy by any means, and if he keeps improving like Rolly, he'll be a tough nut to crack. Nathan Diasha claimed that he hunts the Sandow and Phil Heath, but it is clear that he is not there yet. Also, he needs to hunt Sean Roden now, so... This was his 2nd year at the Mr. Olympia, and I believe he does really well. And if he keeps improving, he is definitely on a collision course with the Sandow Trophy, or if not that, then a top 3 finish one day. What makes this second callout special is that, with all due respect, with the exception of the Blade and probably Steve Kuclo, the other 4 gentlemen are definitely in the mix of people who can one day become Mr. Olympia. Ramy, Nathan and Brandon can define this next era, and Cedric still has time to nail that freak in conditioning and take the crown. At the age of 41, he needs to hurry though. However, Sean Roden showed that you can become Mr. Olympia at the age of 43, so Cedric still has time to work with. I expect at least some, if not half of these guys will be in the first call-out next year. So this was more of a tribute video than a comparison one, but I really wanted to spend some time appreciating this lineup and this call-out, as in a way this was just as good and interesting as the first call-out was. Let me know what you think about this, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and smash that subscribe button as well. Take care.